folks, I'm going to introduce you to a guy that I introduced you to about 2 years ago when he was doing his yoga class down at the YMCA. Now we're here for a different reason, and he's going to tell us about it. So welcome to the home, and say hello to Mr. Don Whiston. All right?
I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
All right. The thing that spurred me to see Don, I've known Don for years, is this. Winning silver. Remember, Don was the goalie for the 1952 U.S. Olympic hockey team, winners of a silver medal. So, it's all yours right now, baby.
Yeah.
You can tell us the formation of the book and what prompted you to do it and what have you.
Well, I'd have to say my life has been very interesting, and a lot, particularly my children, were very much a part of the fact that I wanted to leave something for them. And my real original thought was to let them know their grandfather.
Okay.
And I have 13 grandchildren. I'm going to be a great-great-grandfather in a couple of months.
I only have two, but one's living with a boyfriend in London, so I might be a great-grandfather not too far behind.
And so anyways, people would say, why don't you write a book? And I thought, well, you know, that would be a good way to introduce them to me.
Sure.
And I have, my son lives in Aspen, Colorado.
Okay, Mark. Right?
Mark
Yeah.
does. And it's not a bad place to live. I'll tell you.
No.
And the last time I skied was 2 years ago out there in Aspen with him.
Stay away from Claudine Langer, though. Remember her?
Yeah, I do remember.
She shot spider sabers. This is a
Yeah,
digression. I shouldn't do this.
that's right.
And she plugged them,
Yeah.
and she was acquitted.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Bad segue. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so anyway, he has two children, and they're both hockey players.
Uh-huh.
And one is 7. And the other one is 13, and
Oh, wow.
they play official hockey. They play pretty near all year round.
Yeah.
And plus they play golf and they ski.
But about the hockey, so we got a genetic thing going on here, right, through
my son,
3 generations.
My son, Mark, was the only boy. I have 5 daughters, and he came number 5.
Okay.
And when Dr. Field, no, it wasn't Field. Dr. Field delivered all my girls. The only boy, it was Dr. Grimes.
Oh!
And he called me on the phone and he said, Don, you hit the jackpot. And I said, what happened? He said, you had a boy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was drunk for a week.
He didn't come out with a hockey stick, did he?
Well, he was, he actually was a goaltender,
Like his old man.
like his old man,
Okay.
and like his grandfather Whiston was a goaltender.
Mr.
And
Whiston.
Mr. Whiston, my father. was a
Mr.
goal-
Whiston was, both Don and I have been longtime members of the Ipswich Bay Yacht Club, and when I was a kid doing some sailboat racing down there, it was never Bruce Whiston, it was always Mr. Whiston.
Yes.
And he was God, he manned the cannon from the start to finish the racing.
He and Cliff Murphy.
Oh, yeah, that's right, I forgot about Cliff. Anyhow, we're getting, tell us about the book, so.
So the book was started to be put together.
Okay,
And having done a chapter in People and Places with
Lucy Mars.
Lucy Myers,
Yeah.
I called her on the phone and told her what I was thinking of doing. And she said, I think it's a great idea. And so I hired her.
Okay.
And she would come here, and I wrote much of the book at between 3 and 5 in the morning.
What? Really?
That's when I wrote most of the book, and I wrote it longhand.
Okay.
I did have my computer. I could talk into my computer and watch it print, you know, that program, but that was too complicated.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah, I know. So Lucy would come with her thing and her.
Tape recorder?
Huh?
You record it?
I recorded it with her,
That's cool.
but the ones that I wrote were pretty jagged. I mean, there was no, I mean, Lucy would keep you on the subject.
Oh, yeah, she's a writer, I mean, she's.
Oh, yeah, and so, but writing at 3 in the morning, I had a pad of paper next to my bed,
Wow,
and I woke up and I was as sharp as a tack,
okay.
and that's what I wrote.
I'd be a little drowsy at 3, I think.
Well, you know, it's amazing. It's almost amazing, and I did it for night after night after night, but I was getting a lot of copy.
How long was the process of doing the book?
14 months.
14 months, wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty good dedication, I think.
Yeah, well, I was really into it too.
Okay. All right.
And Lucy kept pushing me,
Yeah,
and I had a lot of subjects I wanted to get into a book.
okay.
All my little neck episodes. My,
Well, let's start from the beginning. So how does the book start off?
The book starts off with my playing hockey in high school,
Okay. Stoneham?
Stoneham High School. And my mother was an Irish woman from Cork, and I went to Catholic school. And in the Catholic school, I went 8 grades.
Okay.
And then when I became a freshman, they had opened a high school with one class.
Okay.
And I went to the high school for 2 years,
Okay.
my freshman and sophomore year. My sophomore year, my mother, and who was not educated, decided that, you know, I wasn't going to qualify to get into college if I didn't have 3 years of one language
Okay.
or 2 years of 2 languages.
Okay.
I mean, that was part of the qualification.
Yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't going to make it. So she said, you're going to the public school. So she took me out of the Catholic school, and I went to Stoneham High School as a junior.
Okay.
And so,
Middlesex League.
huh? The Middlesex, no, the Middlesex League. This was the GBI League, Greater
Okay.
Boston.
All right.
Medford and Belmont and
Okay.
Newton and Ringe Tech.
Because I was,
Yeah,
I was Winchester, we were in the Middlesex League.
You're in the Middlesex League, yeah.
Right, we digress.
Stoneham was in the GBI League, and it
Okay.
was considered to be the best schoolboy hockey league in the country.
Oh, Arlington, I
Historically.
remember Arlington as a kid. Arlington was a powerhouse, a bunch of them were.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure they all were, and they were all friends of mine, because
Okay,
I played
all right.
against them. Okay, but, so anyway, I used to go to the Boston Olympics, because Hago Harrington, who used to live down here in Great Neck, he was the coach of the Boston Olympics. That was it was a professional team.
Did he have the miniature golf place? Was that-
Yes, yes.
Oh, I used to
Hago
play there in high school.
Sure, yes,
Okay, I never knew he lived in Little Neck.
he lived at Great Neck,
Great Neck. Okay.
Great Neck.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he had a son, Hago, too.
Hago Jr.
Hago Jr. Hago
Sounds like
Jr.
the Norwegian.
I can tell you a story about him. He was,
Let's keep
I won't
going.
keep going. So anyway, I go to Stoneham High School.
Yeah, okay.
And having been to the Boston Garden, you know, it was really a thing. I could go to Wakefield, because I lived right in the Wakefield line.
Yeah.
I could get down to Wakefield, get on the train. I'd get 3 Neckel Wafers bars for 10 cents. I would get on the train for a quarter,
Wow.
and I had a pass to go to the games. They played quite a few games.
Sure.
And that cost me a quarter. And then I'd come back to the station and walk home.
Wow. Cost
So now
about
my
$40
stuff- now my-
a night to park there now.
Christ, don't tell me, I know.
Jesus Christ.
So anyway, what happened, Stoneham, you know, the coach called and was gonna have the hockey group come to, you know, I couldn't play football there. Not that I had ever played football,
Yeah.
because I was a transfer.
Okay.
I couldn't play my senior year, my junior year, because I was a transfer. But I could play hockey, okay? So I go to the class, I go to he was a biology teacher, this guy.
Okay.
And he went to UMass, out in Amherst.
Yeah.
And he started a little bit. And, because the players would give him hell, you know, you can imagine. But anyway, so I signed up,
Yeah.
and we had our practices at the Boston Garden.
Really?
Oh yeah,
From Stoneham?
from Stoneham.
Wow.
You know, I got on the train. They had a trolley car get from Stoneham Square.
Bring your bag and your stick.
Yeah, and sticks and everything, and it got right off at the Boston Garden.
Wow.
And then we'd go in, and we'd have practice, and we'd have half a rink.
Okay.
Because Newton might be on the other half.
All right.
And that's what we practiced.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, geez,
What an
this is the
experience.
greatest thing ever. I'm gonna be on the ice. I've been looking at that now for years. And so anyway, I get on the ice and I'm feeling pretty good, you know, and said, this is really something. And then nobody knows who the hell I am, because I didn't go to the public school, see? And, well, they knew, I guess they knew something about me, but they didn't know anything about hockey.
Same ice that Eddie Shore, Frankie Brimsick.
Oh, I know
My father was a big hockey fan. He used to tell me.
Yeah, well, Eddie
Yeah.
Shore, I got to know Eddie Shore when I was coaching at Brown.
I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, okay. It gets better.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, the coach came over to the bench when one of the practices and asked me, he said, you know, would you be interested in becoming a goaltender? I said, geez, the only time I ever played was on the ponds, and I was between the two rocks.
That's
you
right,
know.
we used to play like that in Winchester.
Yeah.
Winter Ponds.
I used to play up at Baker's Pond.
Okay.
Afterwards.
Wow.
And so anyway, I said, I'll play, I'll do anything, but I don't have any equipment. Well, he said, oh, next practice, we practice on Friday, I'll bring the equipment. You can try it out, see if you like it. So I did. I said, I didn't even know how to put the pads on. And I had a chest protector, a baseball chest protector. They didn't have all the fancy stuff.
They didn't have a mask, did they?
No, they didn't have a mask, no.
You never got a broken nose, though, did you?
No, I had my teeth knocked out.
Okay.
That was better.
All right.
All my bottom ones.
All right.
And so anyway, that comes later.
All right.
So he brings me the equipment and I go out there and geez, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I obviously had the genes.
Yeah.
My namesake, I was named after my father's youngest brother, Don,
Okay.
who was also a goaltender at Bowdoin College.
Oh, okay.
And I was named after him.
Old Bear.
Yeah, Bowdoin Bay. So anyway, it came time, we were gonna play the first game, Grinch Tech.
Oh.
Tony Frasker and all those guys that I played against in college.
Wow.
And all Americans and so forth. And so I'm sitting there in the dressing room, I've got my pads on and my regular skates because I didn't have any goalie skates, for Christ's sake. I didn't have anything like that. Nothing was mine.
Yeah.
And so the coach stood up and he said, all right, the starting lineup will be, so-and-so's line, and the two defensemen will be Livingston and whatever his name, the other guy's name, and then the goal will be Don Whiston.
Whoops. Here we go.
And I wondered if he was stuttering, because I thought I he was kidding. And I couldn't believe it. And the goaltender there, it was I had gone to grammar school
Yeah.
with, he went to the high school and he was waiting to take the job over because the guy ahead of him graduated,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
So he's all set, he's got
That's the line.
all the equipment and everything. And he cried,
Oh, boy.
and it was sad, and I thought, Jesus, I don't want to go through this. I mean, I'm just a kid. And so anyway, make a long story short, I played the game. And we beat Brinchtek.
All right.
Yeah.
Trial by fire, though.
Huh?
Trial by fire. You and
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was at home.
Really?
So the next week we had to play Melrose. Melrose was loaded. And so we played Melrose the second game. And they were the best team in the league. We beat them 1-0.
All right.
I was made.
Shut out Whiston.
Shut out, Whiston. I paid $5 for the other goalie's skates. And I had those booted and rebooted.
Oh,
The
wow.
blades I used all the way through the Olympics.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And so the coach was all excited. And he was.
Good job done.
And the best part of the story is that he went to University of Massachusetts Amherst,
Okay.
and he probably was one of the best athletes that they had there. And at Stoneham High School, he coached football, hockey, and baseball.
Wow.
He was the man,
Yeah.
stuttering and all. And I became good friends with him. He came from Ipswich, Massachusetts.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Grew up in Ipswich, Massachusetts.
Wow.
His name is, I want to give you his real name because he had a nickname.
That's all right.
He had a nickname. He was one of the florists down here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sam and his brother, Sam and his
Gordon?
brother Gordon. His name was Gordon. Doc Gordon is what
No
his name.
kidding. Oh.
Yeah, but his name was not Doc. That was his nickname. He was
Wow.
known for that.
Wow.
And he was one of these genius. He's like the football coach at the Patriots.
Oh,
He's got,
Belichick, yeah,
he's
yeah.
got it all going.
Yeah.
And he was the originator of the 5-man attack. The 5-man attack was when the defenseman started to. That's where Orr came into the picture.
Yeah.
Because Orr would carry the puck and
Oh,
score
yeah.
goals.
Oh, yeah.
But that never happened in the previous years. That was not the scene.
Kind of stayed their
Yeah,
position as a
yeah,
defenseman.
so-
Yeah.
And Doc had a daughter, Laura. Young Laura. And of course we practiced in high school, you know, Grace, we practiced all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we go in the ponds. And Doc would get up before he got to class, teaching his biology class, take Laura, and go to the different ponds in Stoneham to see if they were safe so we could get on the ice in the afternoon.
Sure.
And so anyway, he started what they call the 5-man attack. It's now, Greg's sake, it's everything now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he also, years while I was playing there with him, he also created a defensive mechanism where he called it his T formation. And he would line up 4 players on the blue line.
Yeah.
And then he'd have 1 man in the goal and 1 player in front of the goal thing.
Okay.
And you couldn't carry the puck into the zone.
Wow.
Because you were always going to be between 2 guys. They're going to cream you. And he called it his T formation.
Wow.
And I remember when we did it at a game in Boston, and Grace, it was a talk of the place. And Doc is there.
Yeah.
You know, he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it became known.
Wow.
Yeah. So he ended up quickly, I'll tell you, he ended up in Florida.
Okay.
In the florist business. Laura had a florist shop down in
Yeah.
Venice,
Okay.
in Florida. I went down there because I was looking for him because I saw his brother George said he was down there, and his sister worked in the office. And I thought, well, I'll go see him. Well, he was in a private nursing home. And I knocked on the door, and there were like 3 patients
Mm-hmm.
sitting in the living room. I sat down, Doc came out from the bathroom. He's in the bathroom, the woman said.
Okay.
He'll be right up.
Yeah.
So he came out and he looked at me. Now she said, he's not gonna know who you are, you know. I mean, I'm warning you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, anyway, he came out of the bathroom, he looked at me, he said, Greg's sake, Don, what the hell are you doing here? And he's stuttering, he's so excited. So now we're sitting down, and he wants to go over that T formation,
Yeah.
you know, remember we did that? And he was as lucid as you could ever imagine.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And that's an Ipswich legacy.
Wow. How'd you get to college? What happened? I mean, now you're getting a rep, right? A good rep. You're getting a good rep as a.
Well, I mean, I had early acceptance to Dartmouth College.
Oh.
And it was interesting because that's the area that comes into the Olympic side of it.
Okay.
So I was accepted to Dartmouth, and I never graduated in terms of the ceremony. I was president of my class.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I wasn't there for graduation
All right.
because I didn't want to get drafted because I spent my life on boats all my
sure,
life.
Sure.
And so I couldn't believe that. So I decided that, you know, I'm accepted, so I might as well go.
Yeah.
And the war was still going on. So in order not to get drafted,
Uh-huh.
I had to enlist. I went in to enlist in the Navy. And the yeoman in the Navy office in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
he had a home on Little Neck. He was
Oh.
he was a judge.
Oh.
Cowdery, Judge Cowdery.
Oh.
He was a Navy yeoman,
Okay.
lawyer,
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah.
And he said, Don, I can't help you because you're gonna turn 18 in June. And you're not gonna get, I don't have anybody, I can get you in, in July, but I can't get you into June, and you're gonna be 18, you're gonna get drafted.
Yeah.
I said, what am I gonna do? He said, go down the street here, go around the corner, by the custom house, and go into the Coast Guard office. Join the Coast Guard. I said, okay. So I went around the corner, and I walked in, and the yeoman there said, what can I do for you, son? I said, I'd like to enlist. I said, okay, yeah, fill in the papers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I come home, I get on the train to come home, and my mother said, how did it go? I said, it went fine. I enlisted in the Coast Guard, and I leave Saturday.
Oh.
And that was like 2 days.
Wow.
So I go to boot camp, and in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York, that's where the boot camp was. And so I go in, and I'm there for my boot camp. I go to Norfolk, Virginia, and get my first ship. I traveled all over the world
Oh, wow.
on the ship. And I'm still 18 years old, for Christ's
Wow.
sake. And so it came to being that I went, I can't tell you, I did at least 10 trips to Europe.
Oh, wow.
Primarily France and Italy.
How many years were you in?
I was only in a little less than 2 years.
Oh, wow.
But that's the best part of the story.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so I end up on a ship that came into Boston,
Uh-huh.
and we unloaded 7,000 troops. We were moving troops all over the world.
Oh, wow.
That's what we did.
Okay, all right.
And so I left at Boston, and I ended up in the Philippine Islands to pick up troops over there, because the war was
Sure.
said, and we were going to take a whole group from Italy. We were halfway across the Atlantic to the Panama Canal. They were going to go, and then they changed the course because the war in Europe got over.
Mhm.
So we brought them into Norfolk. So anyway, I finally came back to San Francisco, and the ship, it was a Navy ship with a Coast Guard crew.
Oh,
I mean,
Okay.
we had 1,000 in the crew.
wow.
Yeah. And so I got off the Navy ship because the war got over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a commissioning to commission a ship called the Escanaba. The Escanaba was a cutter.
Okay.
And the cutter was brand new and was being built in Long Beach.
Wow.
And so I was in the office one day where we kind of operated out of it because we were in process of being part of the building process.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked on the bulletin board and it said, if you can show that you have been accepted to college, you can get a convenience of the government discharge.
Aha.
I said to the guy, what does that mean? Well, he said, if you were accepted to college, if you can prove it, you can get a discharge.
Oh.
I said, I can do that. So I called my mother on the phone. I said, get my discharge. I said, get my acceptance for Dartmouth College.
Sure.
And mail it out to me. That's how I got out, because I signed up for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
When
Okay.
I signed up, it's the only way I could do it.
Yeah.
I never even dreamed I wouldn't have to serve the 4 years.
Sure, sure.
And so I got out that way.
Okay.
So now I'm back here. I call Eddie Jeremiah, the coach up at Dartmouth. I said, yeah, I'm coming. And he said, well, look, he said, I got a goaltender here. How about it, would you want to take a year to go to prep school? And I said, well, I hadn't thought about that, I still was only young.
Yeah?
And so he said, I think I can arrange that. I'll send you to Phillips Exeter. And Dartmouth will take care of everything. So I went to Phillips Exeter and played hockey there
Uh-huh. For a year.
for a year.
Okay.
And then now I can go to Dartmouth.
Yep.
The problem I had at Dartmouth, they had so many returning veterans, and they had the dormitory they didn't have. So Jeremiah called me and said, geez, there's no room for you here. And he had showed me where I was gonna live.
Yeah.
When I went up to Hanover to play against the freshmen.
Yeah.
And I thought, geez, I can't do that. I said, "But I'm not going back to Exeter for another year." and so I just didn't know what to do. So I went to the admission office and talked to the guy there, and he said, look, why don't you file an application, Princeton, Yale, Brown, anything. And Brown wasn't even in it at that time. Princeton, I got accepted to Princeton and Harvard.
Okay.
But I couldn't go to Harvard because I would have had to live at home. I was within 30 miles of the campus.
Okay.
Because I would, just like I would have been in Hanover, only there
The
was no
old
rule there.
rules, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so my father had a friend who went to Brown, and they didn't have a hockey team at Brown. They had a hockey team, and they had, during the war, they shut it down. They had a team, a practice team.
Yeah.
Club team, they called it. And so I said, well, what the hell, I might as well try that. It's an Ivy League school, pretty good school.
Oh, yeah.
And so
That's what my daughter went.
Huh?
That's what my daughter went.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, well, anyway, so I get in touch with them, and the coach called me, and they said, look, can you come down and see us? And I said, yeah, I'll come down. I didn't even know where the hell it was. I didn't even know where the school was. I knew it was in Providence, but I had no clue where it was. So I went down, and so the coach said, we're going to go back into formal. We're going to be back in the league in another year. Couldn't play as a freshman in those years.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so even if, where I went, I never would have been able to play as a freshman. It was against the NCAA rules. And so I got accepted to Brown, and they told me who they were going to have, and players. And one of them was a player from Melrose, one of the Priestley brothers, who I had played against.
Okay.
And his brother played with the Philadelphia Eagles. He was a football coach at Brown, but he was a freshman coach there.
Yeah.
And so I went down to see Bob, and I said, geez, Git's here? No, he's going to Middlebury. I said, what do you mean he's going to Middlebury? That isn't what they told me, And so, but he ended up coming to Brown.
Okay.
He became my roommate, part of the time. And so we started, my sophomore year, we were in the league. And in 3 years, we were in the Frozen Four.
Oh, wow.
The Frozen Four.
Uh-huh.
We had a pretty good club.
I guess so.
Yeah. And so we went out to Colorado, and BU went out. Jackie Garrett, he just died. I don't know if you saw that in the paper. He was a good friend of mine from Medford. His team went out, and Brown and BU went out and played the Frozen Four against Colorado and Michigan. And so we played Colorado, the favorite, and BU played Michigan. Mm-hmm. And Michigan beat BU, and we beat Colorado.
All right.
So we ended up in the finals.
Wow.
And played against Michigan. The goaltender and the other team, Michigan was all Canadian.
Okay.
Mostly Canadian.
Yeah.
And the goaltender was American, and he was the goaltender that I succeeded at Stoneham High School.
Okay.
Harold Downs.
All right. Okay.
He was a Navy pilot.
Yeah.
He got killed after that. Yeah. So it's been an interesting life. So now I'm back. I'm out of the Navy, out of the Coast Guard. I'm home. Went to Little Neck because my family had a home in Little Neck from the 30s. I was like 8, 9 years old.
I remember when I was a kid. I mean, you still had the place there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so I went to Little Neck, and I was the director of the school there. The teachers, all the swimming and the diving and all that for a couple of years. And
we were always rivals because we were the Great Neck kids were always kind of.
The Great Neckers and the Little Neckers. We had more women than you guys.
Yeah, you had a baseball field too, softball field.
Softball field. And I played softball down there. I was Jake Burridge's bat boy when I was like 10. And he said,
he's been on the show a number of times.
I know it. He said to me, I'll put your name in lights. You stick with me. He cut me in the back of his old Ford, and we'd play all over the place. I still have fun with him, even now.
What do you weigh, all of 135 pounds or something?
Oh, yeah, he was a tiny.
Yeah, he was a peanut.
Yeah, no, he was a pretty good football player.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school.
Oh, yeah, no, I've heard that, yeah.
So anyway, I ended up getting married.
Okay.
I met my wife on Plum Island in a blind date.
Ooh.
Yeah, and when I was working at the yacht club.
Okay.
I mean, I worked at the yacht club for 3 years.
Oh, yeah, no, you were one of the stewards.
Yeah, I was the steward. I lived in the house.
All right.
And I was on duty from 5 in the morning when the guys were going tuna fishing because they needed gas. And I'd be there getting the change from what the party was the night before.
Okay.
From Commodore Bowles.
Gardner Bowles. Okay.
He would count the money, make sure it was all in the till. Right? I'd get about 3 hours sleep. No, so anyway, then I went to Brown and played there. When I graduated from Brown, I was invited to try out for the U.S. Olympic hockey team.
Uh-huh.
I had 2 problems. One is I had a job. I was working. And the other one was I married. A little unusual, but the service did all that.
Yeah.
And so they had 2 training camps. They had one in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and they had another one in Boston. And I would say that each camp would have invitations to at least 50 hockey players.
Okay.
And I worked out in Boston, obviously. And after practice, I had my job. I worked in Boston in the investment banking business.
Okay.
I was in the training program for this New York firm.
Okay.
And so I'd work in the office and I'd get out of practice, and then I'd come back and work in the office.
It's a pretty full day.
A full day, yes. And each day you went down, you practiced pretty near every day through this process because you didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And they would knock off a player. You know, you go in and look at who's still on the board, who's still on the board,
who's still standing.
who's still standing.
Yeah.
And so I went through that process, and then they picked 15 players in Boston,
Okay.
and 15 players in Minneapolis.
All right.
Then they brought the Minneapolis group to Boston, and we played against each other. So now you got 30 players, and then from those 30 players, they picked the final 15. And I was one of the 2 goaltenders.
I don't know if you could hear that. That's Dawn's cuckoo clock going off.
I came right. My wife bought that in Zermatt. Okay?
Oh, wow.
And one day I came home from work downtown, and she says, you know, I found something the other day. I said, what'd you find? She said, I found that cuckoo clock. I said, what cuckoo clock? Well, she said, I never told you I bought it. It was in the closet here. And Mary Dork brought it back in her suitcase.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
All right, so we got
So I made the team.
Yep, beautiful.
And then we started playing games. And I played against Brown.
Okay.
I played against RPI, and we played college teams.
Yeah.
They had picked the final group. Many of them I didn't even know.
Sure.
I mean, one of the 2 or 3 of them were from Colorado College.
Okay.
One was North Dakota, several from Minnesota, 3 from Dartmouth, and 1 from BU, and 2 from BC.
Okay.
So it was a mixture of 2.
Sure.
But we were getting to know each other. Never
Okay.
played before each other, other than playing against each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we flew over to England, and started playing over there. And I played in London, played in Wembley. Then from London I went to Paris, played in Paris, played all over Switzerland, all over Germany, Brussels.
Wow.
Everywhere. We played 60 games, 56 games in 2.5 months.
Wow.
And we played in the World Tournament in Stockholm.
That's quite a pace.
It was, and I was, you know,
Yeah.
it was tough,
Sure.
being away.
Yeah, yeah.
And so on, but I mean, you were busy, you were having fun. Yeah, but I tell you.
Back then, I mean, nowadays, you know, God, even when I was in the insurance business, I'd fly to London on Sunday night and be back in the office on Thursday, but back in that time.
Oh, you're
in
flying through
50,
Gander.
It was a big, go through Gander to get fuel and all that
I
stuff.
know, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were on airplanes and we were on buses and we'd play tonight and then we'd play tomorrow night in Salem. You know, we played seven games. We played every day in Sweden after the World Tournament in Stockholm.
Oh, wow.
We went all the way within 25 miles of the Arctic Circle, playing outdoors. Snow, cold. You put pepper in our skates because we didn't wear socks, you know.
I remember you telling me that the Norwegians had told you that, and you guys weren't sure if they were pulling your leg or it worked.
It worked. It worked.
All right.
And so I turned pro, and actually I turned pro in Stockholm.
Okay.
I got my first paycheck in Corona, and I got 50 Corona, and I basically that was paying now. I mean after the tournament.
Okay. But this is the Olympic squad.
The Olympic squad, we were all together. Yeah.
Okay.
So we each got $50, 50 Krona,
Okay.
and we were leaving Stockholm that morning, so I didn't have time to spend it.
Okay.
So we had an interpreter in the Marine Corps, and who was our interpreter in Stockholm and in Sweden.
Okay.
And he and his wife, she was a Swedish girl, and he was an American Marine. And I gave him the money, and I said, "Look, buy something for your wife. She's a lovely girl." And so, anyway, that was the end of him. He shows up in my office in Boston one day with a package. He said to my secretary, "I got something to Mr. Whiston?" And he said, "Yeah." Well, I got something from the farm, and it was a sweater that his wife had bought from Marie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sweater. I got it upstairs.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So all this stuff in Europe, this was the lead up to the Oslo Olympics?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. All that was preliminary games.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was the after games. We played only played 3 games in Sweden,
Okay.
and other than the 7 that we were on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went and played in the Churchill Cup matches against the Canadian, which they were all Canadian, the British Pro League.
Okay.
We played there in a tournament there called the Churchill Cup, and from there we flew home.
Okay.
But I put my skates on every day and take it off. But I only played every other game.
Okay.
I mean, you could
Oh, no,
never
pace.
play all that.
Oh, God,
No. So Dick Desmond was the other goaltender who went to Dartmouth. Was my roommate on the road,
Okay.
and so he'd play tonight and I'd play tomorrow night. And he'd play tonight, and then it went that way from the day we landed in England. There was
Wow.
never any. I mean, neither of us got hurt to the point where we couldn't play.
Sure.
And I mean, it was amazing. This picture here is the opening of the winter. That's the opening at the stadium. They're lighting the torch. That's the parade. The parade.
And get it better here.
Yeah.
Look at that. Wow.
And in order to get that picture, the
Yeah.
girl that put this book together is just amazing. She's a real professional.
Lucy?
No,
Oh.
Lucy didn't do it. This woman was a professional. I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
She actually put it all together.
Oh, wow, the pictures.
The pictures are amazing.
Oh, wow.
That's why it costs so much.
Yeah.
And but in order to get this, I had to apply. Robin, the girl that put the book together, had to apply to the Oslo Museum to get permission to use that on the cover,
Oh, my.
because it's hard copy. See,
Yeah.
That's the first goalie mask.
Oh, wow.
That's the first one that's ever. So this is its hardcover.
Oh, it's a very
It's
well-designed and good-looking.
Oh yeah.
book.
I mean, it's as I say, it was. If I was going to do it, I want to do it right.
Yeah, well, you certainly
And
did.
it wasn't an economic thing. It was just a question of time.
Okay.
And this picture and that picture, that's when I was doing my swan song down in Puerto Rico. When that's when I was awarded that cup up there. That first one, the silver one.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And that was my years, you know, as my year as chairman.
So you went through the investment business.
Huh?
You went through the investment business.
Oh, I
remember you were a stockbroker for a while, right?
Oh, I was a partner in two New York Stock Exchange firms.
Yeah.
When I went to State Street, the guy that I met over at Tom Shea's, Walker Merrill,
Yeah.
I did all his settlements.
Oh, wow.
I had 60 people working in New York City,
Oh, wow.
and I had 120 in Boston. He had 200 and something in his division. We ran the bank.
Wow.
I mean, because that's what it was.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I flew to New
State
York
Street.
every day, every Monday. I was on a plane to New York. And I would fly from Boston to Newark.
Okay.
And I'd be the only one on the plane with a suit on and a briefcase. Everybody else was continuing on to Nassau.
Ah,
They were on a vacation and we stopped at Newark.
you'd get off.
And I get off and I get on the train, the subway, and go underneath the river.
Yeah.
And come out in the bowels of the trade center that got blown up. And I would, it's 3 escalators to get out off the train and get to the floor. And I could walk to my office. And down the trade center, I can't tell you how many times I did that. Then
My training program when I got out of college was in the canyons.
Huh?
Oh, I was down in the canyons on John Street.
Oh, yeah, well, I said, yeah, I had an office down there.
Yeah.
And I get on a plane at 8 late, not late, but on Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon to get home.
So how did you end up, you ended up being the president of the First National Bank in
Yeah,
Ipswich, right?
yeah.
That was towards the end of your career.
Huh?
Right? That was towards the end of your career.
Yeah, I finished my banking career, because I was never a banker.
Yeah?
I mean, I don't know anything about banking. And I tell you who hired me was my attorney that when I first went to work in Boston, the attorney worked at Goodwin, Procter and Hoare.
Oh, yeah. It was a big time Boston name.
And his name was Charlie Goodyear, young Charlie.
Okay.
And he was counsel, and I was the operations partner of Burgess and Leith.
And Charlie Goodyear was a member of the yacht club too. Right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I watched him fuel his father's boat up one day down there.
Yeah.
And I said to him, Charlie, how much do you think you're gonna take? Don't ever repeat this now. Yeah, he's dead though, isn't he? Charlie,
Yeah,
yeah. And I was on the top of the dock, and it wasn't
Yeah,
down the
yeah,
bottom,
yeah.
the hose was down the bottom, and he's there pumping away. I said, and I'm looking at this thing going around up on the top, and I'm saying, Charlie, how much do you think you're gonna use? Well, he said, I don't know, I guess gonna fill it. I said, well, you already got 50 gallons in there. And he said, I what? He put it in the flagpole hole.
Oh my God. Oh,
50 gallons is in the bill.
Oh, man. Don't tell the Coast Guard today.
Oh, Jesus. And that cutter that did you ever know Clinker Hill? Howard Hill, not Taffy Hill, the other hill?
No.
No? He lived up on High Street.
Okay.
He was torpedoed in the South Pacific.
Oh, wow.
And he survived, and his ship survived, although many in the crew got killed. I ran into him getting ready to get on the subway to go to Oakland in San Francisco. I was on, night out. And I hear this guy laughing, and I said to the guys I'm with, I said, Christ, that guy, if I was home, I'd say he was downtown Ipswich, for Christ's sake. So I said, I'm going to go look at it. The guy kept laughing, and I went there and said, it was Clinker Hill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was a member of the VFW, and he'd sit at the bar down there in the old days.
Yeah.
And he said, I gotta go. And he had a house up on High Street.
Yeah.
And he'd go up and he'd shake down. He rented it.
Yeah.
And he'd shake down the
tenants?
furnace.
Oh, the furnace.
Yeah. And shovel in some more coal.
Oh, man.
And that's where he got his nickname Clinker. He just died too. He was a friend of Jake's, good friend of Jake's. He used to come down when his parents were buried in Ipswich.
So you put this all together and it tells your life, which has been
If you
pretty
read
interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating. And it's really amazing. I tell you one funny story. I played a hell of a lot of golf.
Uh-huh.
And I played at Bass Rocks where I had a branch in the bank here.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It had in Gloucester, my
Sure.
post office.
Yeah, yeah.
When I came here, it was a $3 million bank. When I came here, Wilmot Hall was the chairman.
Yeah.
And when I left there, it was 300 and some odd million.
Wow.
And I had a big trust department, which was sold to Eastern Bank. I still am a trustee. I get stuff from Eastern Bank.
You got my father to buy some stock in the bank,
Yeah,
and believe it or not, I ended up with it.
yeah, you ended up with it, yeah. I ended up with quite a bit of stuff.
I can imagine, I can imagine.
Yeah, anyway, but the point of the matter is that I was playing a golf tournament with one of the Bruins out in Boylston.
Really?
Yeah, in a new golf course in Sterling.
Okay.
And they had all the players were mostly hockey players, and because it was the summer,
Sure.
football
You
players.
keep talking, I wanna grab something off here off camera
What's that?
that I want you to mention.
Okay, yeah.
Because anybody who knows anything about hockey knows this guy, Bobby Orr. And this is a book written by Bobby and autographed
Bye, Bob. Yeah,
by Bobby to Don. So
yeah.
you're buddies with this guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you know how it happened. I mean, I jump all over the place. That's my problem.
Yeah.
But Jim Barnhart, you pick up his wife.
I pick up his wife in the
Yeah,
Council on
okay.
Aging band.
Well, Jim was in charge of Delta Airlines office in Boston.
Oh,
He
okay.
was the big guru
Yeah, yeah.
of Delta Airlines, and of course I flew that a lot. And when I was at State Street, the State Street had a box of 12 in the old garden,
Oh, wow.
and they bring in customers.
13,909. Remember that was,
Yes,
that
it
was the capacity.
13,909, and I would have to go, and someone in the bank would say, look, I got some friends coming in from Kitty Craig, gotta go to the game tonight, and I'd call Marie and I said, look, I'll be late, I'll see some of the first period, and then I'll be a little bit late. And so, and I would go and entertain them and so forth. Barnhart was doing the same thing, and Delta had an office there in
Okay,
Boston, and they had a place up in the galley too.
Okay.
And Bobby Orr was the host over there, and I was the one at State Street, but we used to interact too. Because if Delta had something, I would go over there with Orr. That's how I got to know him.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he'd be fussing at the pay, he wanted to get home like me, and we'd meet all these in Barnhart. We became what they called, I carry the card with me. I'm a frequent flyer Delta. I can go anywhere
Okay. Oh, wow.
with Delta Airlines. And it's on my card. That's it. Nice to see you, Mr. Whiston. It's all printed right on the card.
That's cool.
And that came from Barnhart.
Yeah.
And he drank himself to death, though. Yeah, he really did.
All right. Let's not get into a libel situation.
No, you're gonna. But anyway, it's so that's how I got to know Bobby.
Wow.
I have one of my roommates, at Brown. He lived in the fraternity house with me.
Yeah.
He and I were waiters. See, I got the GI Bill.
Okay.
Took 2 of my years.
Sure.
Brown University cost me $900 a year. That was room, board, and tuition.
I won't tell you what it cost me when my daughter went there.
Well, I know what it is now.
$900 would barely pay for her textbooks that she had.
I know, but anyway, so I would see him quite often
Okay.
on that score,
Cool.
and I had tickets to drinks and everything on the planes and so forth.
Hey, listen, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
There was one guy who played for the Bruins, the Celtics, and the Red Sox. Do you know that?
I'm trying to think of who that could possibly be. Bruins, the Celtics.
And the Red Sox. John Kiley, the organist.
No. They are in the face. Oh, you goddamn.
I'm sorry, that was kind of a low blow, but I
But
love
the
that.
guy that used to wait on table with me
Yeah.
at the Deke House,
Yeah.
we had our own chefs and everything,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
in those days, was Joe Paterno.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Joe was one of my very, very good friends.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned that in the book?
No, I didn't
Yeah, you
mention it
should.
in the book. He wrote a book. Joe wrote a book, and he autographed it for me. I have Joe's book in there.
Wow.
He
He's a
was,
heck of a football coach, I'll tell you
huh?
that.
He said, they're gonna put a statue back up too, you know.
Good, yeah, I probably shouldn't get into that, but that was really a horrible thing.
It was a horrible thing, because he went to Catholic school in Brooklyn, New York, you know, Brooklyn Catholic. He didn't know whether,
Tough little kid from Brooklyn. Yeah.
he and his brother,
Wow,
both of them were his brother was a hell of a halfback.
wow,
Joe was a quarterback.
okay.
Grantland Rice wrote a story in the New York Times on Joe Paterno. He can't run, he can't pass, he can't do anything, but he can win football games.
Gets it done. All right, we probably gotta get going,
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure you did.
we,
You can read this and you can
Thank
pick it apart, and then you can,
Okay.
because it's all my words.
well, I told you, a mutual friend of ours, Dick Fairbanks, I had dinner with him. a week or
Yeah,
so ago,
he came,
And
got the book.
he raved about it, and he said, you gotta read it, Paul. So
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, well, I'll autograph it to you.
All right, my man. Hey, thank you. Keep up the